I'm not gonna bother moving the camera. It's your lucky day. You're out of the frame. So.
Yeah, last week too.
I did, I'll get out on purpose. Look to reconfigure the camera. Not doing that, not doing that.
I think he's trying to say you're not quite as flipping benefits for the rest of us. We said, you don't wear a mask. I said, cover up your face, so let's come on.
Yeah. Oh, boy. It's getting thick in here now. Motion to adjourn. All right, we'll call to order the regularly scheduled Gator Board of Selectmen meeting on Tuesday, May 5th, 2020, 7 o'clock. Community with President John Ray and myself, Mark Waits, and Judy, taking minutes as always. Just to get caught up, we just called the meeting to order, so if you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 on the agenda, review and approve Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from 4/21/2020.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next one, we did this at the last meeting, but I made a mistake on the budget. I forgot to put an input in and caught it going over and reviewing it before it went up to the Board of Finance, so we have to reapprove the budget. The difference is on it, instead of being we're 22,581 more last year's instead of, I think the other figure we had from last year was more like 50,000. So, we had actually forgot to put in the compensation for Joanne into the budget for last year. So, made a mistake, I'll own it, and we just got to approve this and move it forward to the Board of Finance with that change, showing a minus 22,581 from last fiscal year from the next fiscal year.
What line is the change on?
That was, it's going to show up. This is all with the reconfiguration sheet. That's going to show up in land use admin assistant. It's 11,1103, which is where Joanne just because that line existed already. So that's Joanne, our new admin. That's her. We forgot when we were figuring out her compensation to actually plug in the number. Now it's been plugged in, so the budget is where it should have been. And we have a motion to move this budget to the Board of Finance for their action. We have a second. Jump on the second.
No.
No.
Well, I guess I've got a question on what we're actually voting. Because on the 9th, we voted to approve the budget, but we deferred new things like Board of Finance authorization act. And then we met again.
The last meeting.
And we voted then, it was just simply to authorize the Board of Finance. It sounds to me like we're consolidating those two things into one vote.
No, because the last vote we took at the last meeting was to take the budget as it was presented and move it to the Board of Finance. I just caught a mistake in it between our two meetings, and so.
But that's my question, are we voting right now to move this budget to the Board of Finance again, or are we voting right now to?
No, this one as it stands, including the compensation for the admin, which is the correct budget is to go to the Board of Finance. It's essentially moving to the Board of Finance, I just caught a mistake that I had made. Is that a second? If not, I'll second, then we'll go to discussion. I'll second. Yeah. All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be very clear because I voted in favor of the budget itself.
Yeah.
And to move that along to the Board of Finance, I voted against authorizing the Board of Finance to take any action at the last meeting. So I just want to be very clear that we're not voting right now to authorize them again. You guys already voted on that and that passed, that's fine.
Well, it's authorized them with this budget.
So it sounds like you're consolidating. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote no on it.
That's
With the
fine.
understanding that I don't have any issue with the budget
Right.
itself, I do have issue.
With the process with the process as spelled out with the executive orders. I understand
I
that.
just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, and it's essentially, it's the same vote, it's the same vote as last time. I just when reviewing the budget, and I think I've done this every year, when reviewing the budget, I found that I think that's everything, so that's a no from John, that's a yes for me, and yes for Mark. So that passes. We're going to move this budget, which is dated April.
So really doesn't change anything.
Right, changes nothing,
Other than the
yeah.
fact that you just took out the process of voting on
Yeah.
the budget separately from Senate.
Well, that will go up to the Board of Finance for their action now, and that's the corrected budget for the town of Kingsbury. Next item is number 4, which is approved reallocation of CIP appropriations for the EMS roof project. And we spoke about this at the last meeting. This was the issue where we had with that CIP line where we had 106,000 in it. We owe Silktown about 126,000 quarterly payments to Putnam Bank for about $25,000 a quarter. So we had to find some money from various projects that had already been funded because the understanding I had was that an extra appropriation was not going to become forthcoming. So that's fine. The CIP committee, we met last Tuesday. We also met this Tuesday to discuss these issues as well as our budget. And we had identified 5 initiatives that had been previously funded where that money could be reallocated to go to the roof project. And this included, but I'll just give you the numbers if you want the specifics. 5003, which is 20,000, 5069, which is 10,000, 5082, which is 25,000, 5087, which is 15,000, and 5062, which is 5,000. Those are all these. 5162 is a John Deere mower, that was Public Works. 5082 was pavement for the Albany Middle School parking lot. Unfortunately, I'm looking for my PL. It's not sitting right now. I'm sending you probably
Or 5160 is money not paid.
5162 has 10,000 in it. That was funded for 15,000. We took 5. No, the numbers, no, you're not gonna find them on those spreadsheets. They're on the P and L. So, and they worked out. The money we took 5003, which was 6 grade heater replacements. It was 20,000 in that. We took 20,000 out of that.
Please don't do that.
5069 was BOE air conditioning upgrades. There was 20,000 in that. We took 10,000 out of that. The 5082 was the parking lot, which has about 54,000. We took 25. 5087 was the air handlers, which had 35,000 in it. We took 15. And then 5162P was the John Deere tractor mower, which had 15,000 in. A total of $75,000 to be reallocated to the Albany Middle School roof fund. And that, by putting that 75 in, we had 106 in there. That'll buy us enough to pay Silktown. And we're working on having our final site visit, getting that paperwork complete, as well as having money available to pay Putnam Bank for a few quarters on their payments. I think one just went out today for about $25,000. So that's that. So this has to go to the Board of Finance. So if I have a motion to authorize me to go to the Board of Finance to present them with these reallocation of funds as approved by the Capital Improvement Committee. and then take it to their next meeting, and we can get this money in that middle school roof lines, and we can take care of those obligations. You have a second?
Second, if you have questions.
No, that's fine, all right, and then let's have the discussion.
So it's bringing up 75,000, you said?
Right.
How much is necessary to make a payment?
Well, we've got about 125,000 that we owe so far. And that's still dependent upon their final working on that. 125 was the last bill. I'm waiting to get clarification on what that total amount is. So 125, then we have 25,000 a quarter that we have to pay, Putnam Bank. So 75,000, it brings us to a little bit over 200,000. If it's 125, that'll bring us down to 75. It's going to be a little bit less than that because they were paying it to Putnam Bank. You can check that out today. So that would give probably 50,000 in there. And then for the next fiscal year, we want to allocate $100,000 into that line, which will then buy us at least a year's worth of payments, if not a little bit more. So it gives us a little bit of cushion in that line.
You have a shortfall first.
Well, I hope we don't have a shortfall after the first.
Well, really, 2 more quarters.
Yeah.
First of the year, we gotta get through to June.
Right.
We get our reimbursement.
If we get our reimbursement, we should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I think if we get our reimbursement, we'll re-amortize, it'll drop down what our quarterly payment is. Yeah. I think we should be good with this to get us through for this year, this fiscal year, of course, and then next fiscal year, we should be fine.
Mark had mentioned at the last meeting, holding back the 5% for the payment. Is that built into the?
It's not gonna buy, with the last bill we had on it, doesn't factor in retainage on that. I'm waiting for clarification from the Silver and Petrocelli, the architects, project managers. My thinking is, I'm not even gonna worry about holding back the retainage as much as what we really need to do is to do our final site visit and get this project cleaned up so we can get our reimbursement from the state. That's job one, because we want to get about $300,000 from the state. Regardless, that's what we're shooting for, is to get that money in as quick as possible. I think we have about 700,000 outstanding on this, on the note with Putnam Bank. So if we can get our 300,000 reimbursement in as quickly as we can, we re-amortize and it buys us a lot of, it buys a much lower quarterly payment.
Well, we make the payment, we get reimbursed, right?
I think that's what the problem.
No.
Well, the problem, no, well, we don't know how quick it can be.
Right.
Because by them delaying their work and finishing, now we're in that
Well,
time.
whenever it happens, once the reimbursement comes in, is that money gonna go back to these line items?
No, the reimbursement goes straight to Putnam Bank. Yeah, that was the way the loan was written. It goes straight to Putnam Bank to pay down the loan.
So this money is just gone?
This money, yeah, once it's spent, the one thing with the items that we identified, it hurts. It's not, from my perspective, having done CIP for about 6 years now, it's not the way that I like to do things. But the key here is to get those funds in place so we can close this out, get the roof paid for, make sure we satisfy Putnam Bank, because that's very important. Our goal as a municipality, our ability to bond is irrelevant. Our ability to go to Putnam Bank or Berkshire Bank and borrow $1.5 million, $2 million is very important to our ability to function. So, yeah, once we get this in, then we can get through, we can take a look at some of these lines that have been depleted and start planning to replenish them. But in the meantime, the goal, job one here is to get that roof completed, get Silktown paid, and make sure we keep Putnam Bank, keep current with our own obligation for that.
I mean, and I get it's necessary to pay, I'm just, I guess I'm a little concerned with taking money from air conditioning, taking money from air handlers. What is the impact of that going to be on the school? I mean, a sixth grade electric heater replacement.
Well, most of these, when we do this as the CIP committee, we sit down as a group, which includes representatives from the Board of Education. And one of the things we look at with these projects is how long that money's been there. Now, quite often with these, the pavement, it's nice to have new pavement, but the school will still function fine
I guess,
without
but my question
heaters.
is more in the Senate, and so I understand that, I just wanna make sure, because I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
There's not like a project in the works that, I know this money is set aside or allocated, there's not a project that they're gonna all of a sudden not be able to
No.
replace heaters, there's nothing in the works
No.
that's gonna be problematic.
No, I don't see any long-term problems.
Sixth grade heaters have been on there since 2016.
And it hasn't been.
Hasn't been used.
Yeah, so a lot of these, if the money was allocated in these projects for whatever reason why it sort of fell off the radar. So I don't see it being an impact. It's one of those things that when we get through this sort of, get through this roof project and spending money on that, and then take a look at replenishing. One of the things I keep stressing as, the CIP is to make sure that we're funding projects that are necessary and that are going to get done. So my goal on that, generally speaking, is that you want the money for a specific project, to save the money up. But if you haven't spent that money in 2 years, I don't know why. Because if it was that important that we put 10,000 a year in the last 5 years, what's the holdup now? So, we try to make sure that we're using the funds wisely, we're saving the money for what needs to be done. In this case, the roof is job one. This isn't the way I like to do business, but it's pretty much the only hand I have to deal with. Or the hand that's been dealt to me, either way. Whatever the metaphor is, it's all mixed now, so.
That's one way to fix it.
Yeah, and once it's fixed, we'll move on, we'll get better. All right, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye, passed unanimously, thank you, we'll bring that to the Board of Finance. Which actually is a nice segue from number 5 to number 6, because I talked about our ability to borrow. Number 6 is to authorize the first selectman to request approval from the Board of Finance to borrow $2.7 billion in anticipation of taxes. As I think everyone's aware, we've entered into a tax deferment program. So the taxes that are due July 1st will not be due until October 1st. We looked at the impact of this and we sent some numbers off to OPM, and I think 42% of our taxes are collected through escrow, which should be paid if the people are current on their mortgage. The rest are paid not through escrow. And so the way the deferment is written, everyone can take advantage of that. So we took a look at the numbers there. We could be looking at somewhere around about a $3 million hit to our income from that in that first quarter, between July 1st to October 1st with that deferment. So in the past, what we've done, it usually been done when a budget hasn't been passed. At town meeting, we would get approval to borrow, have the Board of Selectmen to borrow up to a certain amount of money. I use an example back on June 2011. At town meeting, it was brought up at the end of a special town meeting to authorize the Board of Selectmen to borrow up to $750,000 in anticipation of taxes. Now, I checked on the statute on this, and according to Connecticut general statutes, we can be authorized to borrow up to last year's tax levy, and that's section 7-405A. Borrowing in anticipation of tax collection shall not exceed the total tax levy of the then current fiscal year. And I checked with Natalie, the tax collector, she said it was about $9.72 million, so $9.72 million. So I put down here, I'm not going to authorize up to $9.7 million in anticipation of taxes. It seems like a lot, but it's the amount, it's the maximum that we can be authorized to request. based upon what we're facing, it's good to have this in our back pocket because we don't want to be scrambling when we find out we're short and having to go through special meetings. We'll have it, we'll get the approval. If need be, we'll have the ability to borrow in anticipation of revenue. I would like to avoid doing that, but it's hard to say what's going to happen between July 1st and October 1st. At least this gives us the ability, it will give us the ability to have that so we can borrow if need be. So, do we have a motion to approve authorize the request of Board of Finance to give us the authority to borrow up to $9.7 million in anticipation of taxes? We have a second? Yeah, I'm not planning on borrowing it, but if, you know.
He said it first.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not planning on, I would like to not borrow it, but it gives us the full authority, it gives us the ability to borrow a full tax levy. I don't think we'd ever borrow that much, but I hate to sit there and say, oh, borrow 1.2 million and we find out we need $2 million. Yeah, I'd rather be loaded for bear and rather than being caught short.
Got some concerns.
Well, give it a second and we'll discuss them. Or I'll second and then we'll discuss.
Yeah.
We'll discuss.
Yeah. Well, I'll second it. Okay, now discussion.
I mean, so basically, we're authorizing you to just go get the money.
If we need it.
There's no,
Yeah. And it's really no different than what's been done,
And it's
What's
only
been done in the-
been approved
done in the
budget,
past. Yeah.
So you can't add any frills or anything to it.
well, I mean, you said what you just quoted from in the past was it authorized the board, not the person.
So we can change it, well, then let's change it then and authorize, either way, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's my signature on the paperwork.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is what it comes down to. It's my signature on the paperwork, and I'm not gonna go borrow $9 million.
You wouldn't have Republicans elected anymore.
I just want to make sure that if we come up really short in that first quarter, that we have the ability to get the money we need to pay our teachers, pay our DPW, pay our insurance company, keep the lights turned on, and really do all our
You
business.
guess that, but if you guess one, then it's a process to go through this.
So I figured my thought process on it, talking with the tax collector and town clerk, is that we might as well go for the full tax levy, knowing full well we're never going to get there, but it gives us a lot of leeway.
Now you can do that and pick up throughout the year too. If you get through the first 3 months with the level,
Well, right.
and then you come back and say, all right, we're doing all right, oh, you've got another shortfall in February, what are we gonna do?
Well, that's the thing too. You put off the taxes that until October 1st when they're due, and that the people that normally pay 3 months behind, yeah, you're talking already. You're 6 months into it, and
Well,
you're
when January comes in the second installments, it become a
Right.
again, you still
Right.
revert back to this, so
Right.
you might go back to the trough a couple times.
Right. It
They're
gives
not
us,
getting anywhere near that much, because people can't
right.
pay how much in taxes, we're in big.
We're in big
with
trouble.
this.
Yeah, we're in big
We're
trouble.
big sales.
And we do have a $2 million unassigned fund balance, but getting that money freed up from the Board of Finances, that's not easy. So, and that would be my first course. If we did have a shortfall, we go right to the unassigned fund balance and use that money because that money is there. But to have the ability to borrow is important because if we do need it, we can get the ball rolling, we can get the money in that we need to keep the town going. So basically, where it comes down to, sort of, in this case, it's not a political decision, it's a business decision. Yeah, it's essentially having a big line of credit, yeah, and the potential to establish, more like actually having a potential to establish a line of credit.
Right, yeah, you ready to prove.
Yeah, we still have to go through the process with the banks.
You
Yeah,
might find out that then we can.
I mean, but realistically, I mean, I get that it's more of a timing process, but if we can keep an eye on things to see that there's not tax revenue coming in, we can call a special meeting.
yeah, and again, you're going through us, you're doing it with the Board of Finance, it's easier to manage the town effectively and efficiently, it's easier to have it in place Now, would I go around then and go sign papers for 9.7 million in loans? Probably not. I'd probably just do in order to share the blame equally, would hold the meeting.
Well,
But, yeah.
and I get that, and I'm not saying that you would, but but you could.
The only
That's the-
advantage, because I was with you at first, I'm like, well, it's really extravagant amount, but you gotta get approved
Yeah.
to do this, so.
Yeah.
A lot of things are in something.
In the
but I mean,
process, if we were to go to a bank and do a tax anticipation, granted, a lot of banks are geared up for this already, because many municipalities are gonna be the same boat, or all municipalities are gonna be the same boat we are. So they're geared up, and I think they're gonna be ready to process a lot of these, but we're still looking at, at least, I'd say at least a month's process on a fast track to go from that first initial contact and paperwork in place to actually getting the proceeds.
But the other issue would be, you say you went in and said, I want $5 million. Then he said, oh, well, $5 million, we're gonna need $6 million. They would say, whoa, gotta go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of money. It'd be good to know where you stand.
The objective is not to use it, but it's to have it there in case we need it.
Are there any emergency funds available for this issue? Is that-
All we have is our unassigned fund balance, which is about $2 million. And my first place I would go if we were running short. If we took a look at what was coming in July, and it looked like we were gonna be short, we couldn't make payroll for the school, we couldn't make payroll for DPW, we couldn't cover our operating expenses, the unassigned fund balance, we were the first place you go. But while you're expending that unassigned fund balance money, then you're gonna be in a position where you're gonna wanna open up those channels of communication with the banks so that you can get that process moving, so if you have to borrow, you're already moving forward on that. Because because the $2 million on a $14 million budget, you burn through that pretty quick. So, you wouldn't wanna,
Consistent income.
Yeah.
so-
without consistent income to back it up, you could burn through that 2 million pretty quick and then you're stuck. So,
I mean, I was thinking more in terms that I would imagine the state has to be anticipating times when we're running these issues, so are there any?
the state is anticipating they're going to run into this issue. And we are going to pay the price for their shortfall. That's what's gonna happen with the state. What's gonna happen is we will probably see next fiscal year, midstream rescissions, where we're gonna see our aid cut mid-year. And then the following fiscal year, we can expect to see our aid, both ECS, town aid, roads that we're about to get from the state cut to that.
I think I'm just having a hard time seeing a scenario where we're going on, Friday we have money and Monday all of a sudden we don't, and there's no time to act. I can certainly see a scenario where, we have projections, we have numbers, we have reports that we see, and we're anticipating that it's gonna happen, and it's something that we put down for a meeting and we act upon. I'm having a hard time seeing the need for such a drastic.
Well, it's not drastic, it's been standard operating procedure for the town in the past. This is just asking for more because we're looking at a bigger gap. And we have so many unknowns with this, we don't know what our tax revenue is going to look like, what our collections are going to look like. So by going for the ability to borrow 9.7 million, which is the total tax levy, it gives us all the room that we need with a margin for error. And by having that in place, if we have to go down that path, we'll be ready to move and to make that decision. Because once you get to that point, you don't have 3 weeks to wait anymore. You really have to start moving because you have obligations you have to meet. So it's get it in place, we'll have it there, we'll be ready to go. I would hope not to have to act on it. I would hope that between our unassigned fund balance, by starting the new fiscal year with a spending freeze, we would be able to get through that first quarter. And maybe our tax revenue collection will be that much greater than the worst case scenario. But we gotta plan for the worst, hope for the best. And this will give us the ability we need, if we need it, to make sure that we can still carry it out.
Forgetting the number amount. It's good to always be the first guy in be looking for something like this than the last time. If, a whole bunch of towns and states are going down this road, and it may not fare as well or as quickly as you think.
And it's gonna be out there. Most towns are, with this tax deferment, every town is figuring that there's going to be that. OPM's been asking us what we think the impact is gonna be to us. But I don't see a lot of state aid coming through because they were looking at, Joe was the projection of the state. They're gonna be 900 million short on this fiscal year, then 1.2 billion for the next. So I don't see a lot of help coming from the state.
Now, were you gonna act on this in the passes and see what the process is and start it?
And I would probably inquire as
So you may
to,
find
yeah.
out that 9.7 might not be a thing.
Yeah, no, I doubt we would ever be able to borrow 9.7 million. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So if you come back and say, you might have a good chance to get 3.
Yeah.
Well, then if you don't start the process, you're not gonna know.
Right, and this is just to say, this isn't up to, that is the worst case scenario, we would need 9.7 million. Yeah, arguably, I don't think Putnam Bank or Berkshire Bank would give us 9.7 million. However, if the ability is there if we have to do it. And it's one of those things, if I were to go down that path, believe me, before I signed any paperwork to obligate us to that, we'd all sit down in a meeting and we could share the noose on that one. Yeah,
We go up to like smaller.
yeah, in the past, we've authorized much smaller amounts.
Like just say, I think if you start the process, you may come back and say 2 months enough. If we look at 9.7, we can get 5.
Yeah, and we might,
But we don't know, we can't even start.
right, and we might find come July 1st that we're actually getting in tax revenue at a decent rate, and we're able to get by without. But if we get through those first 6 to 8 weeks into that fiscal year and our collection rate is really low and and we burn through our unassigned fund balance, we need to have this in place and we need to have it pretty much be ready to act on it and ready to move. And it's one of those things, we get approval on this and then I can move forward and talk to the bankers and talk to the town council and make sure we get everything in place so that, we
So
can have.
we can't be stretching it to get that much.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know what we could get.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess we talked that one to death. And number 6, all in favor to authorize, and we can actually change that, and I don't mind changing the motion to authorize the Board of Selectmen to borrow, or the Board of Selectmen to request approval from the Board of Finance to borrow up to 9.7 million. It says first selectman there, because usually when it goes to the Board of Finance, I'm the one that goes and.
If you authorize it to the Board of Selectmen instead of the first selectman, it's almost self-defeating in the sense that you're gonna have the board approval anyway, so why pass it in the first place?
Because if we pass it, we get the authority to pass it, then we can act on it, but. Because if we don't do anything on it, you're looking at another one of these 3 meeting processes, and that's like herding cats. And so I think if we act on this, we've got the first step out of the way, we'll get the Board of Finance into it, and then we'll have that, then we'll be able to move on it.
I still think as long as we keep an eye on things, we're gonna have plenty of time to be able to review the numbers, do the projections, and be able
And arguably, having done this for a number of years, the time moves quicker than that, so we need to have it in place, so we have to act on it, it's there. And
You're gonna have to find out sooner than
yeah,
later.
you're gonna find out, you're gonna move sooner on this than wait, so. All right, and on number 6, all in favor? Aye. All right, thanks. All right, the number 7, and this is all tied in with the executive order. I think it's now 7HH. I mean, we keep on getting executive orders and they keep on amending them. And the last one it was something you were talking about, John. It was all about the public hearings, not the public hearings, but the referendums and the like. And that got clarified, and now they really don't want any referendums whatsoever. However, one of the things that comes up every year, and this was included in the executive order. Every year we have to go through town meeting and we have to have enacted upon the town meeting this resolution, which reads, The Board of Selectmen are hereby authorized and empowered to enter into an agreement with the Commissioner of Transportation, the city of Connecticut, for the expenditure of all highway funds, local town, and improvement funds available to the town of Canterbury, for said, from said highway funds and local capital improvement funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, that should be 2020. Yeah, 2020, and under provisions of CGS section 13A-175A. This comes up every year for town meeting, and it's one of those things now that we don't, because we're not going to have the annual town meetings, it's been put on to us, and then also we'll move that to the Board of Finance for their approval. So we just need to have approval of this resolution. Is there a motion to that effect? And we'll move it to the Board of Finance, and they can act on it as well. Do we have a second?
The amendment is just changing that to 2020.
Yeah, just the 2020, yeah. Yeah, I pulled the words off from a document that said 2018.
And this is based on HH.
HH clarified it, I think it's 7C when he talks about the public hearings. It might be 7C, if it's not 7C,
Clarification of Executive Order 7I, Section 13, mandatory suspension of in-person voting.
I think it's this one, 7CC, which 7CC read applicability of Executive Order 7S, Section 7, for critical and time-sensitive municipal fiscal action. This permits a municipality's legislative body and budget-making authority to authorize certain actions enumerated therein by a majority vote of each body. It includes actions that such bodies may authorize by majority of vote, the application for or acceptance of any grants, funding, or gifts, which is what this falls under. So if we're just going to approve this, and we're going to move it to going to get it on the Board of Finance's calendar for their meeting on the 13th. They get their approval, and it gives us the ability to expend our town aid road money the same, so that we have funds for the transportation that we get. Until the executive order gets amended again. I think we're pretty good on this now in terms of the number of times it's been done. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? No, okay, I'll second that. Any discussion?
So, I just want to be clear. Expenditure of all highway funds, local capital improvement funds become available to the town of Canterbury from said highway funds and local capital improvement fiscal year.
Town aid road and LoCIP money, which God knows for the next fiscal year, we probably won't get anyways, but this is one of those approvals that are usually done at the annual town meeting or special town meeting, the budget meeting. But we can't do that this year, so according to 7CC, we'll approve it, and the Board of Finance will approve it, and we'll have the same effect as the town meeting. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. You know what, I missed one.
I was gonna say, did we do 5?
No, I missed 5. Yeah, I think I was looking, I said, I know I missed something here because it's on my pile, so we'll go back. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's right. We'll go back, we'll do 5. And 5, actually, you have it right in front of you. It is the capital improvement request for funding for fiscal year 2021. And the CIP committee, we've met a few times on this, and generally speaking, when I took over the CIP committee, working on that, I think it's got to be at least 6 years ago, I always took it and really wanted to use it as a way to make sure we were saving the money that we needed for town critical expenditures, whether it was roofs, wells, backhoes, the dump trucks, plow trucks, whatever the case may be. This year, the committee sat down and we took a look at the requests for fiscal year 2021 and looking at the projections for state funding and looking at the projections for a decrease in tax revenue, and all the uncertainty. We sat down as a committee, and we had a couple of discussions about this. And we went for a very bare bones CIP request for funding for fiscal year 2021. And it includes just the basics. The first two items, if you're following along, those are paid for by the tree power plant money. Those are off budget. The next item on here that we kept in was $69,950, which is for the lease of 2 plow sander trucks. If we don't pay that, they take the trucks back. You can't avoid that. The next one is BMS roof replacement. We're putting $100,000 in there, which will buy us 4 quarterly payments on our note at Putnam Bank. The next one is the Woodstock Academy surcharge, and this is the surcharge per student from Woodstock Academy, where they are doing capital projects up there, replacing oil tanks, doing roof repairs. Last year it was $44,370. It's a per capita. This year it's $43,920. So near on $90,000 over the last 2 years for that. 5010. And there's no way out of not paying that. 5010 CES oil tank replacement, $50,000 into that. So we can get that, at least keep that project moving forward. Brings the total ask this year for $263,870, which is about $21,000 less than last year's request for funding. I'm not happy with it. I would prefer to make sure that all the projects are well funded, and I'll use an example. And I like what Public Works has done, for instance, on the backhoe. If you follow along with that, they've been putting money into that line for the past number of years. They have $107,000 in there, but this is the way CIP is supposed to work, where you put in $10,000 over a year, over a 15, 16-year period to replace that piece of equipment that at that time is expended. And it's a great way to sit there and put that money aside and have it with minimal impact to the taxpayers. But this year, because of what we're going to be facing, because of the uncertainty, both education, the town, DPW, we're all good with scaling it back to the bare bones and just putting in what needs to be funded. Hopefully, in the following year, things will be better and we can get back on track. Yeah, and that's the out years. And the one thing with the out years, that I don't mind having the big projections there, because that's always room for negotiation. It's each year you start off and the figures start off very high, and then they work their way down to something more reasonable. As it stands for this year, we're looking at bare bones CIP of $263,870, which will get us what we need. It won't get us what we want, but sometimes you just need to settle for what you need. So that has to move to the Board of Finance for their consideration. The Capital Improvement Committee, we met at noon today. We approved this for our consideration. So we have a motion to approve sending the CIP request for funding for fiscal year 2021, as well as the 5-year plan to the Board of Finance for their consideration. So, do we have a second? Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Finally got one without discussion tonight. That's good. Yeah. And I will say, I will give credit to both Nancy Duval and Board Ed and Sid, and they understood where I was coming from this and why we put it together like this. The thing that concerns me are some of the costs in here, and I'm not really, and I have not been pleased with the Woodstock Academy surcharge. That's close to $90,000 over 2 years, which is, no, you have to wait to see what the cost is gonna be. I would assume it's gonna be somewhere around that same 40-something thousand, but it's all,
be lucky.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do it all.
well, that's, yeah, I don't even, yeah, thanks for the doom and gloom, but yeah, so but that's all based on the per capita, and that changes year to year, but that's a lot of money. If you think about that, 90,000, that's
Your students.
that's the roof on here, and then some, that's, what, leasing buses, it's 15,000 a year on a 5-year lease to lease a bus, that gets you some new buses up there. The one thing, I've noticed with the plow truck lease, I sit about this, is they are spending less time and money on maintenance repair with the new vehicle. The shakedown period was torturous. When it's under warranty, I think the first 6 months they had them, they spent a lot of time going back and forth in the shop. But once they got through the shakedown, things were running great, so we're spending a lot less money on maintenance repair parts. There's a advantage. It is what it is. I'm not happy with it. We'll live with it for this year. And, all right, on that note, what do we got? Did I put on the agenda? No, we didn't. Well, public comment, I'll change public comment to selectors reports. Let's start over here, see John, what do you have for us tonight? Anything? Mark? Yeah. Yeah, they'd be nice to get those going again. I know the board of ed passed their budget for the board of finance approved it last night. We'll see how that goes. On my end, Memorial Day is coming up. I was talking with Roy Piper about this. He's the VFW with the Memorial Day ceremony down here each year. We don't do a parade. I said, let's go forward with the Memorial Day. We'll make sure that that people are socially distanced. It's a good time. It's a good little ceremony that they do each year there. So we're going to be able to do that on Memorial Day. That's still scheduled to go. 4th of July parade. I know we may do 4th of July. We may do 4th of July parade, sir. I don't want to make an announcement as to the 4th of July parade yet, but I am leaning towards the fact that based on that, there's still so many unknowns that the 4th of July parade probably will not be happening this year, just because. It'd be hard to pull that off. It'd meet all the constraints you're gonna have to operate under. I don't think we'd be able to do that. We hate to do it, but I think that's where we're leaning. We'll make that decision, probably the second meeting this month, when we're closer to June, but I think that's where we're leaning and heading towards. Well, Bootleg Parade, also get this for Memorial Day, which is more 4th of July. Bootleg Parade?
Something about the town parade.
Yeah, you're all right. All right, John, you are now Bootleg Parade song.
I'll be right outside your house. Yes.
Yeah, well, every Saturday, it is, every Saturday, goes up the hill, yeah, you'd be surprised. But that's that, so, but we are doing the Memorial Day, we're gonna do something, most likely, we're gonna do something a little bit different for 4th of July, but we still wanna honor the day and celebrate the day, but make sure we're compliant. May 20th is sort of when the governor's saying he's gonna start loosening up. From our perspective, it's, they're gonna be opening up, probably have to say slowly, just getting back to normal here. We're still actually doing a lot of business, surprisingly enough. We're collecting taxes, we're doing deeds, we're doing all the paperwork. The phone in my office is constantly going. Land use is issuing building permits. DPW is out there, sweeping and cleaning the catch basins, and now they're going to be taking the trees down. And so everybody's been keeping busy. But we'll get back to that. We'll see how this plays out come May 20th at the Department of Health. What sort of guidelines they're going to issue for us. One of the things that I've talked to the superintendent about this on a number of occasions, and they're kind of out of the fire for now, But, school reopening, in August, that's gonna be very interesting. You know, I had a few conversations with Jim Conley, because in terms of what work needs to be done for that, and to make that successful, and to meet what are gonna probably be the requirements from the Department of Education and Health Department in terms of social distancing, it's gonna take a lot. There's gonna be a lot of moving pieces in that. Last note I sent to Jim, I said, you know, there's a lot of work and any support we can give him on our end. He has it, because just little things I like to point out. And the Board of Ed member that lives under the same roof with me, she's ready to kill me because she's sick of hearing it. But the thing that gets me is transportation. So if you have an 80-seat bus that you normally put kids on, 3 to a seat, you can't do that and maintain social distancing. You can't even do that with 2 to a seat. So how do you then organize your bus routes so that you can get the kids where they have to go and have the classes? So what is that? It's let alone social distancing in the classroom. You've got transportation. You have multiple high schools and tech schools to coordinate with, because they're all going to be doing their own thing. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces on this. So I did say to the superintendent, I said to Jim, any support we can give them, we're there for them. There's a lot that's going to go into it, and a lot of decisions going to have to be made, but we'll see how that works out. It's food for thought. I know some other countries in Europe, they started to go back to school and open them up, so there's some templates there to follow, but it's going to take a lot of work. So on that note, do we have a motion to adjourn? All right. Thank you, and let's call it 7:52. Thank you.